All right, so we're rolling. Welcome to our Natural Healing Study Group podcast. We're Robert and Carrie Broe. Did you want to go in with that a little bit, Bobby, that intro, so I can check people in? If you don't mind.
Yeah, Carrie and I are natural healing practitioners. We've been operating a clinical practice for over 30 years together, and we've had a difficult patient practice, gotten a lot of medical throwaways, difficult cases that other people weren't able to help them with, and just people that by word of mouth heard about us. We don't advertise and never really had, and just wherever God brought to us. But we've been authors and lecturers, and we've had our website, the original twobros.com, for 20 years. And now we have the Two Bros Healing site. So we're basically educators, and that's what doctor means, is teacher. Ultimately, we have to teach people how to help the doctor within, because the real doctor is within each one of us. Only our bodies can heal. No one else can do that for you. And your body's doing that continually. You're continually making new cells. You make 1 billion cells every hour. Body's continually replacing itself. So our job is to help give people the information that they haven't had. People suffer from the lack of knowledge. So we're all students of some to be teachers of others. And so our last name is Broe. There's two of us, and we're two bros. That's the play on words. And two bros is also a lovely healing flower. So welcome to the call.
Yay. So today we are going to talk about vibrational medicine, our electrical beingness, how electrical we are. A lot of times we want to focus on just the physical, what we need to eat, the supplements we need to take, the bone that needs to be fixed, the muscle that needs to be flushed, all of that, the physical. And we find that you have to start there, because this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with being in this body, but what is this? What is this that is in here? And how does it get influenced? And we've recently, actually this last maybe couple of years, have been doing a lot more research in this area. A lot of effects. There's a lot of things that limit our functioning, our electrical functioning. But if we just put everything on the physical, then we're missing a huge part of who we are as a soul. The whole body is one part, mind another, and the soul or spirit is what animates this. And recently we've been looking a lot at, and you probably have heard us, and to me it kind of sounds like a broken record now, but I keep finding more and more within the whole electromagnetic environment. It wasn't that big of a deal until recently. We just are quickly moved into we just quickly have really moved into a totally wireless world, with the advent of cell phones, and then going from the little flip phone to the smartphones, and then all the wireless that's around us, and all of the change in the lighting. But we're going to talk a bit about that and how that all rolls out. Bobby's going to give you a little bit about how the energetic anatomy works, what it is, and I want to talk a bit about intuition. I'm working with a lot of people on developing intuitive skills, and now I'm actually writing a course, like a little class or course, several lessons on enhancing your intuition. And this is something that we all have. We all have these feelings. We all have intuition. We all have this knowledge, but what I find where people are lacking is they don't know what they're intuiting about. Sometimes they get, we get these gut level feelings. We get gut level feelings on things. Celeste, I hope I didn't knock you out. I'm just trying to to take the video out so it's not distracting if I did just log in and then just click on the audio part. So if, so back to, so our intuition is, you know, how we feel, and people get a gut feeling about a lot of things. You know, we all get this inherent knowing. You know, you walk into a room that maybe two people were fighting, you know, and you just feel funny, or if you get something's going wrong somewhere with somebody you know or love, you get just this awful feeling, or the hairs on your neck stand up. You know, these are all antennas. This is definitely something that's in us all. But what I've been finding is with all of this other wireless frequencies that are coming on the scenes now, it's hard for people to be accurate. It's hard for people to know what it is that they're feeling about. You might get a funny feeling, but you get off on what you think it is, and you're thinking off in a whole wrong direction. And we're going to talk a little bit about how some of this works and how you can enhance your own intuitive abilities. So I'm going to turn it over to Bobby, and hopefully I'm not knocking people out when I just cut off their video. So
Okay. I'm just going to go through one of the PowerPoints I made years ago on energetic anatomy, and go through some of the slides, and I'll narrate that for you. Let me just change this out of the way. All right, in energetic medicine, there's no separation between body, mind, spirit, and emotions. Okay, let's see if I can get her going here. Bear with me. Both vibrational medicine and bioenergetic medicine are based on the scientific principle that all matter vibrates at subtle levels. All matter, including our bodies. We also know that all matter vibrates to a precise frequency, and that when we use resonant vibrations, changes in matter occur. Again, think of Ella Fitzgerald's voice breaking the glass. You've all seen pictures of that probably. So that's resonance. Okay, and sound actually impels matter. Today, more and more people are experiencing adverse health effects as a result of ongoing exposure to electric and magnetic fields. Electrical hypersensitivity is growing worldwide, and hypersensitivity can be difficult to diagnose. Many physicians and other practitioners in North America are not aware of the recent scientific evidence surrounding electromagnetic energy and its detrimental effect on our health. So when you go into the typical practitioner's office, they're going to have junk lighting, they're going to have Wi-Fi, maybe telemetry, and a cell phone in their pocket, probably a laptop. You know, they have no idea the effects. Scientific studies have shown that electrical pollution affects children more than adults, and women are at least twice as susceptible as men. Examination of adult mortality from all causes in the 1930 and 1940 vital statistics provides evidence that residential electrification was responsible for the epidemic of our diseases of civilization in the 20th century. And again, when the light bulb was invented in 1879, there was no cancer, there was no heart disease, there was no diabetes. This has all shown up since the advent of the electric light. The price we've paid for the convenience of electricity in morbidity and mortality since the early 1900s almost defies quantification. So the real surprise is that cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, and suicide seem to be strongly related to residential electrification. There's also been correlations with plagues and things happening with the advent of radar, and then the electrification of the grid, different things. So science is now beginning to fully sense the subtle energies involved in cells and to measure the electromagnetic reality of biology. The measurement of pH, acid-alkaline balance, is really a measurement of voltage. So the more electrons there are in a substance, the more alkaline it'll be, closer to 14. And the lack of electrons would give you a net gain of protons, will make it more acid, and you'd approach 0. 7 is neutral, it's like water, purified water. Should be neutral, about 7.0. And in the blood of the body is in a real narrow range, 7.40 on average. But it's really electrons that determine that. The deterioration of people's health is directly correlated to a decline in pH and voltage within the cells. So a decline would be a lower pH from 7 down to 6 to 5 to 4. Stomach pH of good hydrochloric acid concentration would be below 2, 1.5 maybe pH. So not a lot of electrons there, but in the body tissues, in the blood, that's a different story. There's different pHs. In our mouth is more alkaline, our saliva is more alkaline in its pH. Stomach acid again is acidic, stomach acid, and then our small intestine gets alkaline again, and then our large intestine gets acid again. It should be those pHs for the normal flora that live in those areas and so on. So different parts of the body have different pHs. The skin has a different pH, but the blood is what we're basically talking about. So voltage is fundamentally important because the body is constantly regenerating itself. I mentioned we make 1 billion cells every hour. The cells go through a process called autophagy, usually at night when we're in a deep, restful sleep. And this is where the cells turn over themselves and recycle and get rid of old residue, cell residue. And this is what science calls viruses. They come out of the cells themselves during autophagy. And when you don't sleep well, this stuff builds up in your cells and doesn't get cleansed until you go through a cleansing crisis called a cold, a flu, I caught a bug, whatever. And this is a cleansing of the body.
Let's talk about that just a second, because I think this is something that's right now people are going off into a really obtuse angle, a really different direction. Years ago, we used to say we got a cold. We have a cold symptoms. And I have to explain just a little bit about that. Usually those things happen when the lighting is less. That happens more in the winter time than in the summer, but not always, but more than not. And the reduction in light, light energy, sunlight definitely reduces vitality. But people also eat more cooked food in the winter time. They don't get hydration. They don't move around as much. You don't exercise as much. So that means that your muscles produce more lactic acid that doesn't get drained away. A lot of things happen. People eat more acidic foods. People eat more sugar. People eat more grain. A lot of things create mucus in the body. And this creates an overly acidic condition, and the body creates a cleansing crisis when it's confronted with these. We tend to think that it's caused by a microorganism, but the microorganism is there to clean up the mess. So it's wrong thinking that to be really afraid of microorganisms. Not that I want to go, lick the toilet or anything like that, but I want to keep my body's immune system strong, and I want to keep its pH correct, and I want to help those natural routes of elimination. If those natural routes of elimination are not working well, are clogged, if you're not pooping, those toxins will back up. If you are putting a lot of maybe things on your skin that block the pores' ability to breathe, the skin is not able to vent off toxins. If those avenues get blocked, then those toxins come out unnatural ways. They come out through the lungs, the body will cough. They'll come out more through the skin with rashes or bumps or discolorations, a lot of the symptoms that people a lot of times complain about. So
It's
back to it.
ultimately, yeah, it's ultimately voltage that's important. His body, again, is constantly regenerating itself. Every 48 hours, we make new rods and cones in our retinas. Every 8 weeks, we replace all the cells in our liver, and every 8 months, we replace all the cells in our nervous system, including the brain, contrary to popular belief. So problems occur when the cell runs out of voltage before healing is accomplished. To correct chronic disease, you must insert enough electrons to push the cells back up to the healing voltage of minus 50 millivolts. So by going up, that's going negative in voltage. It just means more electrons because electrons are negative.
Which is a good thing.
So you must also have enough raw materials or nutrition, building blocks to make the new cells. So nutrition without the voltage doesn't work. And voltage without the nutrition does not work. You got to have both.
Let me say one thing about that. Can you just, before you go on or go back to that, one of the things that we do when we see patients to bring their voltage up is we ground them. We also give them frequencies, but traditionally people did the laying on of hands. We have people, if you are vibrating, if you're healthy and happy and vibrating at a higher level and have the Spirit of God in you, when you touch somebody or something, you're transferring that energy into that person that has the lower vibration. So if you're more uptone, if you have that higher energy and you touch a sick person, you are putting that energy into, you're transferring that energy into them. You are giving them extra electrons. So this is, there's a scientific purpose for doing that. And that's the whole game. So I just wanted to interject that.
Okay, so typically people leak the most voltage from their teeth. Metal fillings and crowns and chronic infections from root canals all tend to leak a lot of voltage. People may have great diets and normal hormone function, but they're unable to get well because of the chronic infections and voltage leaking from their mouth. The impact of putting metals and root canals in the mouth is well understood in Oriental medicine, which long ago embraced the concept of meridians and energy. However, Western conventional medicine, with its emphasis on disease management, ignores the mouth. And again, in embryology, when we develop, the mouth and face develop first, and then everything else in the body develops after that. So there's energetic connections, acupuncture meridians at each tooth, for instance, that have an effect on the whole body. So healthy teeth plus enough thyroid hormones plus good nutrition equals keys to health, because then the voltage is normal.
Stop there. Just
Not
like
having a cell phone in your pocket and not having a Wi-Fi router and all the Bluetooth stuff that we've harped on over and over again.
And when you mentioned about thyroid, you're going to talk about a second, but thyroid, the thyroid needs certain nutrients to make thyroid hormone. And I'm just going to give it to you real quick. One of the two basic ones it needs is iodine and selenium. And if people aren't getting that, people aren't putting salt on their food. People aren't eating from the sea, from the ocean, fish, high sources of iodine, and then all the minerals. But if people aren't getting those too in enough quantities, then the thyroid is going to suffer. Years ago, when we had goiter problems, that was mainly people that lived in the interior of the of continents. They get the big enlarged area over here, and then what's that doing? That thyroid is enlarging, is getting bigger to try to get any little teeny bit of iodine that might be in the system. That's all that is. You start giving that person iodine, those goiters go away. They've recently taken iodine out of salt. I mean, you shouldn't be eating refined iodized, Morton salt anyway. You should be getting some good sea salt, Celtic salt, Himalayan salt. But you really need extra iodine. And, we could talk about that another time, but I just wanted to mention, if you're not getting those basic nutrients, then body can't make T3, T4 to, you know, make the hormone the thyroid needs.
All voltage in the body is stored in fat. All of our cells are made from cholesterol derived from good fat. Bad fats make it hard for cells to function and impossible to hold voltage. So it has to be good fats such as non-homogenized butter and raw milk straight from the cow and unprocessed, organic eggs, grass-fed beef, and organic meats, tallow and lard. All our cells are made from cholesterol. Again, it's derived from good fat. So in order to make new healthy cells, we need 30% of our diet to be good fat. Bad fats like margarine and partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, for example, are very similar to plastic molecularly. They're incorporated into the cell walls like a layer of cellophane, and this makes it hard for cells to function and impossible to hold the voltage. Many people try vegetarian diets and do not feel well 6 to 12 months later because they're lacking good animal fat in their diet.
And vegan
They're
diets.
often unable to maintain normal voltage. They're like a sputtering battery. Your biofield is the energetic system that your body is a part of. Your physical body is a part of. Your biofield protects you from external stressors. The bigger and stronger it is, the more efficient and effective it is in resisting external stresses. Your biofield can become damaged by electropollution, as well as biochemically from a poor diet and from physical and emotional stresses. It manifests as the chain reaction of measurable physiologic responses. So there's stress-induced heating, clumping of red blood cells. It's called rouleau effect, like stack of coins, reducing the surface area for oxygen transport. So hardening to the cell membranes, that's another problem. That's why electropollution is considered the greatest threat to the 21st century. As you harden those cell membranes, you can't get the glucose into the cells and things, but also you can open channels in the cell membranes that you don't want open, allowing things into the cells that shouldn't be there, especially in the brain. It's like cell phone. You hold it up to your, or just have it on your body and turned on. It opens your blood-brain barrier wide open. It lets things into the brain that cause inflammation of the brain on fire. And that affects the whole body because your brain affects everything. So also the barrier between the small intestine, it's called the brush border, and between the small intestine and your blood, we absorb nutrients, that gets open wide up. You get leaky gut or hyperpermeable gut. So it affects the enteric as well as the nervous system. But hardening is also a problem that doesn't allow the nutrients in that you want. So you have the power to reduce the impact of external stressors, strengthen your biofield, and take control of your wellness. In healthy tissues, electric currents are carried out both by ionic conduction and electron semiconduction. Light produces life and is stored in the cells of organisms, more precisely in the DNA within its structured water in each nucleus, and in the mitochondrial DNA, two separate genomes. All living cells of plants, animals, and human beings emit biophotons. We give off light, which can't be seen by the naked eye, but it can be measured by special equipment.
You've all seen some of the Curlian photography, I hope, pictures of, it's an actual photograph of the energy field of like a hand or around a person. Shows you that.
Light produces life and is stored in the cells of organisms, just like I said, especially within the water and within each nucleus. Okay, that's a repeat. Francis Albert Pop is a leader in the study of biophotonic energy. Pop monitored and was able to confirm that cells, living cells, not only emit or radiate small bursts of light, they also absorb light. And I'd like to just add at this point that when we talk about living cells, when science looks into cells, they usually use a scanning electron microscope. Like when they look, the virus stalkers are looking for these protein fragments. These are not living matter that they're looking at. They have to be frozen. The cells have to be frozen and then sectioned, cut, and stained and all kinds of stuff to be able to be seen by the scanning electron microscope. So it's not anything like what happens in actual living cells, and especially cells within the body versus in a petri dish or something.
So the live blood analysis would be much better than a lot of other techniques.
Yeah, and then Royal Rife, you all heard of Rife frequencies, Rife generators. Well, he built a microscope that you could see inside of living cells, and it used light to stain the cells rather than chemicals. So they were actually alive and you could see inside them, even though they weren't in the body. But you take these from the bodies of people that were terminally ill and they could see certain things within their cells that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise. So Pop's studies showed that unhealthy cells will store light longer than unhealthy cells. He discovered that a healthy cell radiates coherent light while a diseased cell radiates chaotic light. Coherent light is what laser light is, what lasers give off. It's all the wavelengths are in phase with each other, where chaotic light is all different wavelengths of different phases. It's interesting that our DNA actually gives off coherent light, like laser light. So cells communicate by converting biophoton signals or light into electromagnetic oscillations of resonant frequencies. That would be electrical signal. Think of our brain waves and our EKG and our heart signal. Biochemical messengers carry these specific frequency signatures between the cells. In essence, we're crystallized or precipitated light. That's all we are. Okay, electrostatics. We've heard electrostatic charges. And physical objects are made out of charge. All matter is made of molecules, which are made of atoms, which are made of positive and negative electric charge. Electric charge is the major component of all atoms. Matter is made out of canceled electric charge. So it's the electrostatic force that drives electric current. Without electrostatics, there would be no voltage, hence no current and no electrical devices. So think of a battery as an electrostatic force. It's not flowing, it's built up, ready to do something. It's the electrical potential that's different from what it's connected to. So it flows from that area of higher to lower or negative to positive, however you want to look at it.
Well, she was having a bad hair day.
Yeah. The world is made of molecules, and molecules are made of atoms, and atoms are themselves composed of positively and negatively charged particles. Atoms are held together by electrostatic attraction. Everything at the atomic level, it's all electrical. Electrons are negative, protons are positive. Opposite charges attract. If matter is made of little dots, then the bars that connect all the dots together are made of electrostatic fields. Also, atoms are connected to each other through chemical bonding, and chemical bonding is based on electrostatic attraction and repulsion forces again. If we cancel out some opposite charge by placing a positive charge together with a negative charge, we get material substance. Positive protons plus negative electrons equals neutral atoms. All functions of the human body are electrochemical in their operations. All matter, all human beings emit a distinct frequency vibration, which is an integral feature of physical existence. Every living entity has a vibratory pattern which is typical of the species which the entity represents. This would be like our primordial vibration. You might have heard of that. Every biological process is also an electric process. So this is how our body runs. It's all electrical. Health and sickness are related to the bioelectric currents in your body. Cancer and other biological challenges are first and foremost electrogenetic disturbances, vibrational dissonance with a universal rhythm. All cells possess an electrical potential that exists across the cell membrane. This is commonly referred to as the cell membrane potential from the inside to the outside. There's like a little battery effect. That's why when we put you on the table and test you and you're weak, and then we put the grounding strap on you, and all of a sudden you get strong where you were weak before, it's because we're putting you on the charger. We're putting electrons into your body, into your cells, charging these little batteries. Each cell, we got 100 trillion or so of these, and they're all like little batteries. Cell membranes are composed of a bilayer of highly mobile fat or lipid molecules that electrically act as insulators or dielectrics.
And I want to mention one thing about that. That is very, very important. And you mentioned before that that's making the lining around all of the cells, and especially our brain. Our brain is composed of, it's a huge fatty organ. And if we don't get the right fats from foods, your body can't make them. And that's what's really difficult about vegan and vegetarian diets, because the right fat profile has not come in through plants to make these.
Right. You see these cholesterol molecules in the cell membrane also. You got to get that from animal protein in your diet. And if you don't have enough, you're going to have a breakdown in the cell membrane function.
So we get lesions being created when that happens in the brain and in the different.
The brain is 75% cholesterol by weight, and your steroid hormones are made from cholesterol. So all kinds of problems happen when you don't have enough cholesterol. If you're put on statin drugs, for instance, to lower the cholesterol biochemically, or block the production of cholesterol, or whatever, a low cholesterol diet, vegetarian, vegan diets especially.
And this is a big problem with Parkinsonism and with seizures.
Because the melanin insulation on the outside of all of our nerves is 95% cholesterol by weight. So if you don't have enough insulation, you're going to have shorting out of the wires, so to speak, the nerves. Cell membrane lipids also act to restrict the movement of charged ions and electrons across the membrane, except through specialized membrane spanning protein ion channels. And these are affected by cell phones and Bluetooth and other electromagnetic fields that we expose ourselves to daily now. Membrane spanning protein semiconductors are active in this transmembrane flow of charged particles. Electrochemical forces across the membrane regulate chemical exchange across the cell. So these chemicals can't equilibrate, they can't move, diffuse across the membrane if the electrical signal isn't right. So if it's too strong from an external force being applied to it, for instance, like a cell phone or Wi-Fi router, something like that. The cell membrane potential helps control cell membrane permeability to a variety of nutrients and helps turn on the machinery of the cell, particularly energy production and the synthesis of macromolecules in the cells. All healthy cells have a membrane potential of about -60 to -100 millivolts. It means you got to have a lot of electrons. There are computerized devices that'll measure the body voltage. You can just use a regular multimeter. We've done that too. You just put ground one end and touch the positive end to your hand. Okay, so there's computerized devices that will measure body voltage. There's various computerized devices to measure the impedance of the body also. These were developed in the 1950s before the FDA began to evaluate devices and start to block them so we couldn't get them. This is the, again,
pH.
cell voltage.
Yeah, voltage.
Okay, and has a lot of numbers on it. Don't be confused. It helps you relate the cell voltage to cell pH and salivary pH. And the colors are those normally found in pH strips. So as you get more blue or purple, it's more alkaline, and more red and yellow, it's more acid. The more acid you get, you steal electrons. The more alkaline, the more electrons you have to donate. So the voltage of healing, the voltage in your thumb is minus 20 millivolts. Now you hit it with a hammer. The voltage immediately goes to minus 50 millivolts, so it has enough power to replace the cells you damaged with the hammer. At minus 50 millivolts, we have the signs familiar as inflammation. You get throbbing, pain, swelling, redness, and heat, as well as decreased function. When tissue is at minus 50 millivolts, bear with me here, and the healing is occurring. Two things are possible. It can be, you can have enough electrons to heal the damaged cells, and it returns to normal at minus 50 millivolts. The other possibility, it runs out of voltage before the damaged cells are replaced. It then drops to a voltage lower than minus 20 millivolts. It would be more positive in this regard, closer to zero. Now you have all signs of degeneration. The pain changes from throbbing to a constant ache. The swelling may or may not be present. Redness turns to paleness, and heat disappears as circulation diminishes. Again, so this is an electrical phenomena happening. Remember that we normally don't get well by making damaged cells work correctly. We get well by making new cells that work correctly. We replace the rods and cones in our retina every 48 hours. The skin you're sitting in is only 6 weeks old. Your liver is 8 weeks old. Your brain replaces itself every 8 months. Your bones are replaced every year. So it's constantly changing. Making new cells requires materials or nutrition, building blocks, and the voltage to use them. When your thumb is less than minus 20 millivolts, there are no pharmaceuticals or surgeries that will heal it because there isn't enough voltage to make it heal. You must insert electrons to raise the voltage to minus 50 millivolts so that new cells can be made. The body knows how to heal most things if you give it the nutrition and the voltage to do it. Again, that's why we ground ourselves. That's why we stand barefoot on the earth, have a grounding sheet or a plate for your feet, strap that you put on different ways, and eat more
electron-rich food.
Electron-rich food, right. So, and get out in the sun, and you absorb these electrons directly from the sun. There are multiple sources where the body normally gets electrons. Okay, this creates a body pool of electrons. Now this unprocessed food, alkaline water, sunshine, stand in to do it, like I said. Okay. So in the body, the tissue with the least resistance to the flow of electrons is fibrous tissues. You've heard of fibrinolytic enzymes breaking down fibrin. It's like scar tissue that builds up as we age. So this has more resistance to the flow of this electricity. So when you break this down, get that out of the body, then you have more communication happening, more electrical communication. So wherever there's fibrous tissue, it serves two purposes: as structural support and moving these electrons. The body has three trucking systems that move electrons down to the cells. Ironically, through the circulatory system, through the fibrous sheaths surrounding the nerves, remember this is made of cholesterol, and through acupuncture meridians, or the fascial system. Cell membranes are made up of opposing phospholipid fats. So if you don't get enough fats in your diet, you're not going to have healthy cell membranes. Because of their unique properties, this arrangement creates a capacitor. It's like a little battery. It's a unit designed to store electrons. So cell membranes are like small batteries. Underneath the cell membranes are small power stations called mitochondria. You've heard us harp about this a lot too, because that's what's affected by artificial light in these electromagnetic fields. Now, if you eat plastic fats, your cell membranes become like cellophane and they won't hold a charge. You become a dead battery, right? Canola oil acts similarly to plastic, is like a plastic fat and should be avoided. This is in all kinds of supposedly healthy foods. It's highly refined. Inside the mitochondria is a rechargeable battery system called ATP-ADP. When the battery is charged, it's called ATP. When it's discharged, it's called ADP. And that's during the electron chain transport mechanism. That's why we have to have that red light from the sun, or we do red light therapy to turn on cytochrome C oxidase in the inner mitochondrial membrane to allow that to flow and to create ATP. As power is drained from the ATP battery, becomes discharged, and it's called ADP. Instead of 3 tri, it has di, only 2. Electrons are then brought down from the cell membrane to recharge ADP back to ATP. So adenosine diphosphate to adenosine triphosphate. ATP is also made by the Krebs cycle. This process takes place about 70 times a day in every mitochondria. We have to come to understand that chronic disease is accompanied by a loss of voltage. You usually find that loss of power by, if you study this image. If you can understand the question, why did I lose enough voltage to get sick, you will know how to get well. Give the body more electrons. There's many things that could destroy your power grid. However, the 4 most common ones are eating trans fats, not having enough functional thyroid hormone, heavy metal poisoning, and dental infections. And then cancer cells have less efficient production of cellular energy. Cell membranes that exhibit different electrochemical properties and a different distribution of electrical charges than normal tissues. And again, they have lack of oxygen and an acidic pH. An acidic pH means lack of electrons, right? Different lipid and sterol content than normal cells. Cancer cells have altered membrane composition and membrane permeability, which results in the movement of potassium, magnesium, and calcium out of cancer cells and the accumulation of sodium and water into cells. And the cancer cells have lower potassium concentrations and higher sodium and water content than normal cells. So potassium, magnesium, these are considered alkaline forming minerals. That's because they have more electrons to donate. Okay, so these are driven out of the cells when you have cancer. And again, this can be done by electromagnetic fields, like having your cell phone next to your body all the time, or sleeping with magnetic fields next to your body and things. An electrolyte is a substance in solution capable of conducting electric current. Where there is electric current flow, there's also magnetism. So the electrolytes are what are like, think of your car battery. You have to put these minerals in the water in the car battery to hold a charge. Likewise, our bodies have to have these electrolytes, these minerals, to allow our cells to hold a charge. Healthy cells maintain inside of themselves a high concentration of potassium and a low concentration of sodium. But when cells are injured or cancerous, or when you have microwaves bombarding these cells, sodium and water flows into the cells, and potassium, magnesium, calcium, and zinc are lost from the cell interior. These voltage regulated calcium ion channels open up with microwaves.
So this, one of the big, go back to that a second, if you don't mind, that last slide. One of the big things here, you said magnesium and zinc are lost from the inside of the cell. And when the body is sick, when you have respiratory problems in particular, there's a big loss of zinc. And what are they finding now with this COVID virus thing? If you give, what is the hydroxychloroquine, you give it with zinc, that pushes the zinc into the cell. Or you can take zinc with the quinine water, and that pushes the zinc more quickly into the cell, because the body's already toxic and has a hard time getting things into the cell at that time. The voltage is lowered. But that's interesting that you've got to have that there. And then another huge thing we always find with people is a lack of magnesium. You're just not getting enough. Magnesium is a huge, the body uses that like crazy in, 600 different type of reactions, not to mention relaxing all the muscles, all the nerve transmissions, and we don't get this.
So why don't people have the zinc and the magnesium and the potassium and calcium in their cells? Well, it's either not in the diet, it's not in the soil that the plants were grown in that they're eating, or they're driven out of the cells by having their cell phone next to their body.
And in a Wi-Fi laden environment,
Right.
it's amazing that people are in and don't even think twice about it, that they're in a wireless environment. Didn't ask at all.
Electrolytes begin as minerals, the inorganic hard rock of our planet. Minerals are metallic elements, but most metals have so much charge they're rarely found as pure elements. Instead, they easily react chemically with other atoms to form oxides, chlorides, sulfides, sulfates, silicates, carbonates, etc. They don't exist by themselves. The metal elements coordinate and direct the flow of electrons, reactions between atoms, strength of membranes, and actions of enzymes in biological life. Atoms react chemically by exchanging electrons. How atoms share, pair, pass around, circulate, and store electrons decides how ions form, atoms bond, molecules are made, carbons chain, cells sing, and hormones reign. Some elements, mostly metals, easily release electrons and have a positive charge, a cation. They're called a cation. Others capture extra electrons to acquire a negative charge, and those are called anions. Simple electrolytes can have three types: acid, base, and salt, and or neutral, like we went through earlier. Every enzyme requires an electrolyte as its key component. Remember, enzymes are chemical catalysts that make chemical reactions happen much faster than they would without the catalyst. So without this electric spark, there can be no taste or smell or sight, no sensation, no motion or light, and no life.
And electrolytes are made up, well, go ahead. I'll say.
Enzymes. Coenzymes play vital
proteins.
Right. Coenzymes play vital roles in metabolism. Without them, most cellular reactions would come to an end and the cell would die. Coenzymes such as NAD+ and FAD are used to carry electrons to and from many kinds of oxidation reduction reactions. And in the mitochondrial membrane, we have these same reactions happening in the different cytochromes during the electron chain transport.
And then these NAD and FAD are B vitamins. I think it's B2 and B3.
Adenine dinucleotide and flavine adenine dinucleotide.
Yep, right? B2 and 3.
Right. So oxidation reduction, or redox, it's an abbreviation for reduction and oxidation. Reactions are electron transfer reactions in which the molecules losing electrons become oxidized and those gaining electrons become reduced. So there's oxidation and reduction. When you have a free radical, it lacks an electron and it robs it oxidizes another molecule, say in a cell membrane or in DNA or something. And an antioxidant provides an electron to neutralize that free radical so it doesn't cause harm. So oxidation reduction reactions are fundamental considerations in the realm of bioenergetic systems. Molecules store and hold electric current at particular voltages. Increasing the number of electrons in voltage is what we call reducing. It has more negative potential. Decreasing the number of electrons is called oxidizing, or pulling electrons back.
Like rusting.
Right. Some liquid solutions are better electrolytes than others. The better the electrolyte, the greater the current flow, and consequently the larger the resultant magnetic field.
Years ago, we used to have vegetable juices that were really, really high in electrolytes.
Right.
Yeah.
So that plant grew in the sun and absorbed electrons from the sun and the earth. And then we squeeze that juice out of the plant and it's loaded with electrons. So another good one that we like is the tangy tangerine.
Yep.
It's got it's got a really high ORAC value, or antioxidant value, compared to other similar types of
oxygen radical absorptive capacity, or
right.
RAC. In the last like 5 minutes or so we have, maybe we just kind of synopsis this a little bit. We might have to continue this. This is a good presentation.
We can continue this in another meeting.
Yeah.
And
so what would you say so far, if you could just synopsis that a little bit? There's a lot there that you just went through. Maybe just give us some key points there.
We think of giving our body nutrition and rest and things, but we don't think of it as an electrical entity. We think of chemicals, in our body, and especially the medical profession with all their drugs, which are chemicals. It's a chemical approach to trying to do a hostile takeover of our physiology chemically. But the electrical component is what makes chemicals work. And so if you have just an electrical influence without the chemicals, it can have even more of an impact on the function of the cells. So our bodies are electrical, and it's basically, we're light beings. We're a temporarily crystallized light, which is stepped down to voltage, to electrons. Because a photon of light is 2 excited electrons. So we're electrical beings, and it's so important that we understand that, and that we avoid environments and conditions that affect us adversely on that level, because we're so sensitive to that influence.
So to tie that a little bit back into our intuitive feelings, the more hydrated we are, the more electrically charged we are, with the more minerals that hold the water in our systems, the less foreign electromagnetic fields that we're around, doesn't have to compete with our own, the more intuitively right on we are. And it's important also to train that. It's not an actual muscle like this, but I like to say that's kind of like an intuitive muscle, that we have to sometimes know what we're feeling, know that we're feeling something is correct. And just a few little things that we've worked with for years. Bobby and I are both martial artists, and several things that we've done in martial art training, the type of martial art that we study is called Budo Taijutsu, or the real art of the ninja. But it's mainly about getting home safely. It's not tournament oriented or competition. So a lot of our training is in a lot of different areas, but one is in sensing. And we do a lot of things blindfolded. We do a lot of things, if you do something on your right side, do it on the left side. And then with the blindfolded skills, there's a whole lot of things that we've done. But one of the things is just sensing threat in your environment. So one of the drills that we would do would be, say somebody would be blindfolded and they would sit in the center of a circle, and all the other participants are around. And we might just have some other noise, some music or something, so that way it kind of blocks out any sounds of anybody being noisy. But then Bobby or whoever was in charge, one of us would maybe point to a student that's sitting around the person in the middle, and they would get up really quietly and move, quietly with intent, not
Harmful intent.
harmful intent, like you're gonna maybe think about, I'm gonna go up and just slap that person or something, you're just kind of thinking that, and you're projecting those vibes toward that person. And the first level is when the person just feels that, they raise their hand. It's like, yep, I feel it, And then the second level is to point where that threat is coming from. So it just takes training and validation. It's like, sometimes with people, if they've never done it, they're like, here, oh, here, and the person hasn't even got up yet. So you have to validate what, it's like, no, nothing happened yet. That was your mind. And then now this is real. Okay. Oh, that's what it feels like. Ooh, the hairs did stand up. I was just thinking about it, but it wasn't where they actually were like, ugh. And that's the little difference that you want to develop. And it's so hard. I mean, that's hard anyway. I mean, it's hard training because your mind, you're really working at getting your mind out of the way. That's what just keeps coming up. Like, oh, that's it. No, that's what you're thinking. That's not what you're feeling. So with the introduction of a lot of these synthetic electromagnetic fields, it interferes with that functioning. It's just more noise. It's electrochemical noise that interferes with your body's ability to differentiate between truth and the mental thought about that.
And psychic abilities, right. And then that's basically your part of your biofield that I was talking about that extends outside the physical body. And when something enters into that biofield, you feel it if you're in tune with it.
Absolutely.
And, you can learn to extend out your biofield, make your aura bigger. Was it Buddha's aura was supposed to be 40 miles in diameter or something? It was huge. So we sense anything within that field, and we just have to be aware that it's there and that we can do that, to pay attention to it.
And if somebody has negative intent, you'll pick up on that. You'll just feel like, ooh, and then you'll start to feel it coming from that person. Then you can see it on their physiology. You can kind of physiology read. People can give you the little fake smile, but you got the smirk or something underneath it. There's the physiology that accompanies it, and they're congruent. So
it's like when you pull up to a red light in your car, and you look over because you feel somebody's looking at you, and sure enough, they're looking at you, and you sense their intent.
Right.
So, but if we're busy thinking about other things,
you miss it.
Most of us do. We miss the subtle input that our self is aware of. All right, so we are at 6:30.
All right. So thank you all for joining us. Spread the word. This is the right link. This number that you joined in, Mondays Eastern Time, 5:30. And again, if there's some topics that you would like to have us cover or know more about, just give us an email, write in the chat, private message. Too many platforms, but any number of those will work. Right.
All right. So,
thank you all for coming. Visit us on twobroeshealing.com. Visit us on our YouTube channel, Two Bros Healing, and we're posting these study groups on there. So thank you again. We'll see you soon.
Have a namaste.
All right.